Welcome to Leapcast. I'm your host, Dr. George James. Leap stands for leaders, entertainers, athletes, and performers. And I'm on a journey to connect with high achievers and highlight their unexamined human moments. Tune in to learn how these high-achieving Leap individuals were able to reach their greatest potential, face their most difficult challenges, and embrace the human moments that helped them along the way. If you want to get the episode highlights directly in your email, then head to theleapcast.com right now to subscribe. Today I'm excited that I get to have an amazing guest on the show today. His name is Esteban Serrano, and he is so talented and he brings so much to the table. But let me just tell you a little bit about Esteban. He is an audio visionary. He's a writer, producer, and director that's been keeping the music, and as he likes to say, the M, alive at MTV for the better part of a decade and a half. He is multi-talented. He has so many different skills. I'm excited to talk to him, and in particular, he's worked not only at MTV, he's done some stuff with Fuse TV, and he says that he has nerd-like knowledge of music. So I'm looking forward to what he's going to say. Esteban, welcome. Thanks for joining me at Leapcast today.
Man, thanks for having me. I'm excited to sit down and have a conversation with you for sure.
So, what I like to really get into to start off is what I'm going to call your Leap story. Just tell us a little bit, tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you get to where you are? And then we'll just, kind of go from there.
Well, honestly, I got attached to music at a ridiculously early age. I think
How early are we talking?
Man, 4 or 5 years old. I remember my first, I don't know if you remember Teddy Ruxpin.
Yeah.
So that the teddy bear that was built and designed to be a child's best friend, and had these interchangeable cassette tapes that it would tell you stories and the mouth would move, robotically. That was my first boombox. I quickly got rid of the Teddy Ruxpin tapes and put in any hip hop or R&B or salsa or anything that I could find. And Teddy was the homie from that point on. It was honestly the perfect storm environment, from the fact that I grew up in West Philly, a few blocks away from Fresh Prince. Remember going to the barbershop to get my hair cut, and him going there every weekend and battling rival artists in the town, and just no one could keep up with him. So I got to see someone who's at an elite level in what he does. I got to see him from a child, just ripping MCs, and people don't give Will the credit he deserves as an MC. Like, he is a monster. Mix that with the fact that my mom and my mother's side of the family loves music, grew up listening to music. My aunt sung the national anthem at the home Sixers games. And and my dad was a reckless 20-year-old who, when I was first born, who loved hip-hop and didn't censor anything around me. And I got like raw, uncut, Public Enemy and Run DMC and NWA, and you just mix all of those things together. And at my most impressionable times, I was getting the good stuff, and so that just stuck with me. Here, when I decided that it was something that I wanted to pursue for a career, music was always that driving force. And I was always a very visual person. My grandmother, we went on a few family vacations where she was in charge of videotaping. And there was a whole lot of videotaping with the lens cap on, and there was a whole lot of videotaping the ground as we walked. And I was like, man, give me this camera and let me get to it, because all my memories are gone.
Right. I want to actually see it.
Yeah, I want to see what's going on. I don't want to just hear it. So she put the camera in my hand, really, really early. I say maybe around 9 or 10 years old. And, it always stuck with me. And, here I am now, mixing music and visual together. And, Doing it for a living, and blessed to be able to, for sure.
I mean that sounds awesome, man. And I'm having all types of visuals. So I'm curious, right? Putting the cassette tape in the Teddy Ruxpin, was the mouth still moving?
The mouth was moving. He was spitting.
I love it. I can just imagine what that looks like, having all
Man.
types of stuff coming out of the Teddy Ruxpin. But I
My
hear
Teddy
you.
Ruxpin was the original Hip Hop Harry. Remember Hip Hop Harry?
Oh, I don't know if I remember that. Now I gotta go look
You
that
gotta
up.
look him up. It was a huge rapping bear that was Barney-esque. It came right after Barney, and it was more of a hip hop vibe to him. But Teddy Ruxpin was first, man, for me.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Now you threw in something there, and I just, so I grew up in North Jersey, right? So I was surrounded by people of all different backgrounds. My family from Jamaica,
Mm-hmm.
folks from Colombia, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, Dominican, just everywhere. So
Right.
I had a lot of like Spanish influence in my upbringing in terms of musically. So that's why I love a live set. I love a band.
My
I loved
goodness.
all the different kind of instruments. But you're doing salsa. I mean, you said Public Enemy,
Yes.
right? All
Mark
the way back then.
Anthony,
You said
man.
salsa. So how does that all mix for you?
So I like to, I've coined the phrase, my nationality is I'm Puerto Rican.
Okay.
So my mom is black and my dad is Puerto Rican, but I don't speak Spanish. So I'm sort of Rican. But I
Okay.
grew up, listening to salsa. Salsa was always blaring out of my house. My dad was either into super hardcore hip hop or salsa, the golden era
Like
of
Hector
salsa.
Lavoe and like all those people.
Yes, yeah, man. Tito Puente,
Oh yeah.
Johnny Rivera, Tony Vega. Yeah, man.
Those are
I
the
just got,
icons.
yes, some great salsa. And I can sing every word. I don't know what they're saying, but I feel it. It's my heritage. It's in me.
I hear you. That's all. So does that mean that you have a diverse kind of palette for music?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what's crazy is, again, kind of touching back to the my nerd level. I also, through my path in life, very early on was exposed to a lot of people from other countries.
Yeah.
So one of my very early memories, I think I was about 12 years old, and I met this girl from Paris, and she spoke Spanish, English, and French. And her brother was a super hip hop head. He was maybe a few years older than us, but he was playing me hip hop from Paris. And
Oh,
like they were spitting, and I didn't know what they were saying, but
right.
like they embodied that flow and that rhythm. And that kind of set me also on the path of wanting to listen to hip hop from all over the world. So yeah, I got really early on the UK grime scene
Okay.
and the garage scene there, and
Yeah.
even in Asia, listening to a lot of the Asian hip hop and in Korea and in out of Japan. I wanted to hear everything, Afrobeat, anything that had like a hip hop, like essence to it. I needed to hear it, especially Brazil, like everywhere
Oh
that they're
man.
doing it, like they're doing it with their own style and flair, and I love it all.
I mean, I could hear it. I mean, you got me excited because I'm thinking about, coming from like a Jamaican background, you got the reggae, you got the dance hall, but then I had all that Spanish influence. So then, like, just my love for like just different sounds and music. But like when you talk about culture and like diversity and like global, right? How
Right.
sounds and people move and people feel and people spit, no matter where they come from, they just add another instrument or another sound to it. But it's so cool to be able to see that.
It's amazing.
That's awesome, man. And so I'm curious, man. Like, what do you feel has been like one of the biggest successes or moments for you in your career?
Man, so many. For one, like
All right, give us
honestly,
like two or three.
um so my favorite, my highlight, absolute highlight of my career was I got to produce as an assignment. So at the time I was at MTV. I was at what they call TRL 2.0, which was when they relaunched TRL maybe 9 years after it had went off air. And I was part of the team on the original
Okay.
TRL,
And that was
and
a
now
huge success.
huge juggernaut television show where I literally learned everything about producing television. Was my first, run on the OG TRL. So the new TRL came back, and this was probably 2017, I want to say. And my sons actually performed on TRL. They had a song called Stranger Things,
Okay.
which was basically a recap of season 1 of what happened on Stranger Things, and it had gone viral. And the Stranger Things cast they all shared it, and it was on like Entertainment Tonight and
Wow.
all of these different outlets. And so the cast of Stranger Things was coming on our show to promote season 2. And so me as a producer on the show, I'm like, look, this song is going viral, and I didn't tell my team that it was my sons,
Okay.
because I didn't want them to feel like
Right, right. You just try to put your
anybody.
sons on.
I'm like, look, there's these kids that are going viral. Here's all the Millie Bobby Brown tweeted. Here's this tweeted. Here's all this. Let them perform the song live on the show for the cast,
Hmm.
and everyone loved it, and it was a great idea. And then later on, after they booked them, I'm like, they're also my kids, and they're like, are you serious? This is crazy. So that my assignment that day was to produce my kids,
Nice.
and it was literally the highlight of my career, was like walking them through the tunnel, and getting their blocking, and letting them rehearse. And my son ran up off the stage, ran into the crowd, and was jumping the crowd, like lifting them up. It was insane. It was such a monumental moment for me.
It sounds like insane and awesome. And so like it makes me think about, what what did you do in that moment? Because I'm thinking about not only as you as a producer, you as a visionary, but you as a dad, right?
Right.
Like what was that moment like for you, like to produce and to help your sons like do that? Like how were you, if you can remember, what was that like to feel in that moment?
It was, I would say, as a producer, now the product at the end of the day, the way it looked on TV was phenomenal and amazing. But I was the worst producer job I've ever done, because my dad head was so, in control. And I just wanted to make sure that they were having fun. I wanted to make sure that, the moment wasn't going to be too big for them. I wanted to make sure that, they were as prepared as they could. So my dadness took over, and I wasn't as prepared as a producer as I should have been. But God is good, and and he gave them the grace, and he filled in where I slacked on
Right,
one
right.
job. And they hit a home run, and it was great. Like, just looking back at it, like, I was like, this is all God. It was great.
That's so awesome to hear. And like in that moment or when it was over, like can you remember who did you talk to? Like who were the first people you wanted to share that with?
What was amazing was, my wife was there. She's always been the momager.
Okay.
So she's always been there. From, my son started out in entertainment really young. They were all signed to Wilhelmina modeling
Oh yeah.
agency, and yeah, they've done like campaigns and commercials. Like, my middle son had his passport at 7 years old and was in Canada shooting like Target and Amex commercials and stuff.
Nice.
So my wife has always been, the one who's been over their career. This was the first time I was, not the first time I was involved, but this was the first time
Right,
where
right.
like we kind of crossed.
You were
And,
producing it.
right. And so she's my best friend. And so the fact that I had my wife and my sons, and we were all in one place, that was really all I needed.
Man, that's just awesome. I mean, for me, like being like a family person and connected to my family, like I could just imagine how like amazing that felt, right? Like to have everybody there, for them to shine, for them like for it to go great, for you to just like just be in that moment. And I'm wondering, like, was there anything that you learned from that experience or that you took away from that experience?
Um, what I honestly learned and this wasn't a lesson that I needed to learn again. It just was like, kind of just affirmed for me, was just to trust God.
Mm.
That was really what I learned in that moment, because I couldn't, it was live television. It wasn't like it was something that we can cut and do over. Like, you know, if if something had gone wrong in that moment, there was nothing that I could have done to control it. So I had to, trust that what I helped to build, and what, this opportunity was going to be blessed, and was going to be a good move, and that, I just had to let go. And even when things started to look like maybe it wasn't going to go the right way, it was quickly, seamlessly, it didn't look like it. Like the it's amazing. I guess it's TV magic, but like, what you see in the, and what the public will get to see versus what we knew
Yeah.
behind the scenes, it just looked like magic, man. And
Right, because it could be literally a hot mess or a lot of things
it could
going off
be.
behind all the other
Right.
parts of the scene. But what's caught in the camera is
It
looking
was,
real good.
that was it.
And I
There
guess
was
that's
some missteps in the choreography, and and these kids are my oldest son at the time, I think, was 13, which means my middle son was 11, and my youngest was 8. So, we're not dealing with seasoned vets here,
right.
they're still kids.
Yeah.
So, something not going right, it could throw them all off, but nothing threw them off. They were perfectly in sync, and like, they rolled with everything, and it was a beautiful day.
I'm curious because the little I know, maybe not so little, about TV production is that they try as much as possible to control and have everything controlled as possible. So there's that part of you, right, that
Right.
needs to have everything checked off. But you just said one of the lessons you learned was to really to like kind of fall back and trust God. How did
Right.
those two things work?
So, as a producer, we prepare for any and every scenario that we can see going wrong. But there are always some unforeseen things that, could, appear. And those are the moments, like, I rest in my preparation. I know that I prepared. I know that I've done all that I can in my knowledge and what I can foresee, and trying to put out fires that haven't occurred yet. But once I get there, I can't see, what's going to happen in the future. And so that's where I got to rest and know that I prepared. And if anything happens, beyond that, then we'll just have to roll with it.
No, I think that's really great. Like the thought about, and I can imagine that's probably how you continue to be successful throughout your career, right? That you got to prepare, like like anything, you got to show up, but you got to be ready for the lights to be bright, right? You got to be ready for like game time. You got to be ready for showtime. But then what you said, like you said, but once it's once it's that time, you have to have faith that everything is supposed to happen the way it's supposed to happen, and just go from there. And then and then TV magic will kick in. But that's great. Are your sons still like in entertainment or still doing things?
They're my oldest son is and he's always been a music producer. He's always been the one who's been producing their music, but he had two separate songs in two different films that'll come out next year.
Nice.
And he's a senior in high school. My youngest son literally last week got his first guitar, and he's like slept with it every night, to the point where I'm like, you're going to get hurt, or you're going to break that thing if you don't
Right.
put it in a case and leave it be sometime. So, we kind of just wanted to build an environment of creativity and productivity, and, really like nurture their passions, and, in hopes that, they would pursue something.
Mm.
And music has stuck, and it's been a beautiful thing. It's not necessarily hip hop.
Right.
And that was the direction that I always imagined that they would be headed in. And now it's taking more of an alternative
Mm.
turn, which I also love, is a music that I've also loved my whole life. But it's interesting to see them find their own voice versus finding, just cutting their teeth on the things that I've kind of arranged or my wife has kind of set up for them. Now they own it and it belongs to them. And now they're playing us records. And
It's like,
that's
Pops, do you hear this? I'm like,
right.
man.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's awesome, man. I could just tell how much of of a family person you are, and how much that matters, and how like you're passing down music and love and creativity like down this next generation. And I'm wondering, like, for you to get to where you are, like, I know, like, the industry is not easy, and there's like situations and people, and like, can you share like what the sacrifice has been for you? Like, what did you have to do to get to where you are right now?
Yeah, man. And I wouldn't be completely honest if I didn't say that for me to get where I am, it took more than just my sacrifice. So um I think when we were pregnant with my second son was when we decided that it was better for my wife to stay home,
Mm.
because the money that she was making was we were handing straight off to a Montessori school who was not
I
taking
know the
care of
life.
and I'm like, dude, my sons would not be who they are today. I would not be who I am today if my wife hadn't taken that sacrifice. So she sacrificed having her own career path so that she could stay home and take care of our boys and allow for me to go on and pursue my dreams and my passion. And then taking certain projects, there was a time where I spent 6 months on the road working on a project with Chris Brown. I actually wound up just living on tour with him for
Wow.
those 6 months. And when I left for tour, I think my youngest son was 6 months old.
Wow.
So I missed his first steps. I missed his first words. Um, those are the things that I had to sacrifice in order for me to, continue to pursue my career. And that move happened to be a pivotal one in my story and in the trajectory of my career. A lot more eyeballs and attention were on me because of that project in particular. So, it was time well spent in that regard. But at the same time, like you said, it comes with a price. And, that price was having to leave my family home. And, with three young boys, my oldest son was maybe 6, my middle son was 3, and my youngest was months old. And, the wife held it down.
I mean, I think that's awesome, right? That I think we need to like, you know, tip our hats, or just shout out, our partners, our wives, our spouses, right? Because
Yes.
they can hold it down, right? And I could hear how you say it, like how your wife held it down for you, and you can acknowledge that while you had to do so many other things. And I'm wondering, like, in those moments where you were like, because we just talked about how much you're a family person and how much that's your heart, I could tell, right? So how did you really deal with the moments where you're on tour with Chris Brown and your family is there without you? Like, what did you do, or who did you talk to? How did you handle those moments?
It's funny because when I was out on the road, I remember distinctly a story, a moment where we had like I think it was like an 11 a.m. call time or something like that in the lobby. And this had been like we got into the hotel maybe 7 a.m. and we maybe showered, took a nap, and then we're back out, going either to a studio or a sound check or a video or something. I don't remember what it was. But everyone's piling into the SUV, and I'm the last one walking in, and I say, "All right, I love you, babe. I'll talk to you, in a little bit," and hung up. And Chris turns around and he goes, 9. And he points at me, and I'm like, "What 9? What? Like, what are you talking about?" He's like, 9 times you talked to your wife in the last 24 hours.
Wow.
I was like, "Why are you counting
Why,
how
why,
many
yeah, you
times
keeping
I'm
tabs
talking
on
to?"
me,
He's
right?
like, "Man, I haven't talked to my mother as much as you talk to your wife. And I'm like, that's my homie, man. That's my best friend. Anything that I'm experiencing, I want to share with her immediately. And of course, I'm checking in on my sons, and I would FaceTime them on the road. And I was always, I was with them, multiple times a day, but just not physically.
Right, right. I mean that's really interesting because sometimes we don't realize the people who are really clocking us, right? Who are paying attention to us, right? Like our like little steps, little moves, right? The fact that he was at 9, it's not like he just started counting.
Right.
He was paying attention throughout the whole time.
Yeah, man.
And it just talks about the examples, like even when you're making that sacrifice, right? The example we can be, because that's why I'm interested in like these conversations, is because like people see your achievement, which is great. MTV, you talk on tour with Chris Brown, like all these things are great, but there are moments, there are sacrifices, there are challenges, there are ups, there are downs, and how we navigate it can be tough at times.
Yeah.
And so that's great that it sounds like you and your wife have had that strong friendship, that bond that has really helped you. I'm also curious about like, how have you dealt with just times throughout, like where you're just nervous, right? Like that you're maybe even anxious about whatever. Maybe it's something that you're producing. Maybe it's something that you really want to go well. Like, how have you handled those moments?
For me, it's again preparing as much as I possibly can the things that I can control or foresee, but it's also being in constant conversation with God,
Oh,
and and saying, I'm either letting this go and I'm not going to stress about it and worry about it, or letting him know what my hopes are and what I want. But obviously, whatever you want is going to be better for me. And I've learned that 10 bazillion times. Like, if you the where I thought my career would be versus where it is like a joke. If I had my way, I would have capped out, 10 years ago. It would have been a wrap for me, and I would have been happy with that.
wow.
But thank God that he had a way better, plan and vision for where he's taking me, and he's not done yet. But like for me, that's it. Like my faith is what helps me to remain centered.
Oh,
It's what helps me to remain confident. And also taking those L's where I thought I should be headed in a certain way, and
yeah.
that door being slammed, closed, or locked, and me being frustrated and upset, only to find out that this door, for example, the whole Chris Brown situation, I was supposed to take over a position at MTV News that I was told was mine.
Wow.
And maybe a week before I got the phone call for that Chris Brown gig, I was told that they had already hired someone else, and it was political stuff, and someone who was in the control knew a friend who needed a gig, and blah 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 blah. And I was really upset. I was disappointed. I was upset, and I was mad at God, and I let him know it. I was like, yo, man, what's up?
This was supposed to be mine.
That was mine. Why you do that? What we do? What happened?
Right. What's up with that?
Right. And then I'm telling you, I was really, really upset. And then, a week later, I got the phone call. And had I taken that gig, I wouldn't have been able to take this one, obviously.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I
think that's really powerful, right? This thought of like especially being a high achiever, going after like those goals and dreams, right? Sometimes we can produce our life, right? Like we can have it in lockstep, thinking about this is gonna happen and that's gonna happen, and then when we get sidetracked or something happens, we can be, as they say, in our feelings. But sometimes it's necessary, because you just never know where the opportunity is, and it sounds like that's at least one of those times. I know it's happened more than one.
So many times it's happened, and to the point where I've learned now, I'm like, all right, if that ain't happened, then what's next? Because something hot got to be coming down the pipe if you ain't let me get that one. And every time it works out that way. I mean, and I'm constantly a student of not only of hip hop and television and film and things like that, but I'm also a student of me and my spirituality. This path that I'm walking, I know that I'm not perfect at it. And there's times that I've slipped up, or there's times like that where I'll be mad at God, and he shows me, something better. But now I'm at the point where, like, if something doesn't work out, that even if I really, really wanted it, I know, because he's proven to me time and time again that something better is about to happen. And now I get excited when I hear no sometimes, which is weird. But that's that's the level.
Oh,
of
you said no? Oh,
right.
That's right.
Right. Oh, that's what's up. Thank you very much. What is going on?
Like, I don't know what's going on with him. But I mean, I can relate. I mean, there've been times in my career where I was like, I thought it was supposed to happen this way, and it didn't. But then the next thing, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is even, I couldn't have scripted it out even better for myself. This was the right time, the right way. And so I totally hear that. And you mentioned God, you mentioned your faith. Like, has that always been something that's been helpful for you, or that you are your go-to, or a place of strength for you?
Always, 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 always. My whole life, it's been. I was blessed to have a mother who is, a super duper spiritual woman. And I say spiritual and not religious. For her, it's about her relationship with God, and making sure that I had a relationship with God as well. And it was my relationship, and not something that was forced upon me at a young age, or not something that was supposed to, put shackles or guardrails on me. She was the one who really was always about spirituality, and it just ignited in me in a different way from a very, very, very young age. And I've always had that conscious one-on-one relationship with God, that he could talk to me about things, and that I could receive, or I could just see where he's kind of orchestrating things. And of course, when you're young, you really don't all the way understand it, and you don't really know what's going on. But as you get older and you get more mature and you start to put these things together, you see it. But it's always been a part of my life. I've always, when I was born, I was born on a path as a yogi. My mother practiced, Siddha yoga, which is technically a form of Hinduism. But the act of yoga is more of a practice than it is an actual religion. So
and even that sidebar, like, we don't often hear about kind of folks of color who have been like into yoga and yogis, like from way back. I mean, so like, it's hot now.
It's hot now, right?
People have been doing it for a minute.
Yeah, man. My mom, I think, was 16 when she became a yogi, and she had me, I think, 21. Okay. I'll be 40 this year, and so I've been a yogi my whole life.
Nice.
So definitely that practice of constantly being aware of your state, constantly, working toward being centered, working toward being present and in the moment. Those practices, definitely kept me from going off the deep end throughout my life. And then I think I was maybe 22 or so when I found Christ. Okay. And then that was just like, then it really started making sense.
It all popped, right?
Right. And that was it. I was like, this was the piece that was missing. Now I get it. And so,
the secret sauce.
Yes, that was it, man.
No, I could totally see and hear that. Like, in my work, a lot of it is really trying to help people to be aware, self-aware, right? To be able to be in the moment, to be present. And it sounds like for you, family, not only like, your parents and their influence, but also the family that you like created with your wife and your boys, like that's been part of the foundation. It sounds like, your faith, right? And trust in God, right? But also like this thought of like what it means to be in the moment, what it means to be present. That's all kind of been there for you. And so you've been able, this is my assumption, you've been able to be flexible while still moving forward, right? So it doesn't take you out. You just
Right.
keep moving, and no matter what happens along the way.
Yeah, man. I definitely resting in the fact that, God loved me and he got me definitely takes a lot of stress off of myself.
Yeah.
With if you are brave enough to really buy in and believe that he got you, then life is good for me at that point, because he's never failed me. He's only kept me climbing and climbing and climbing. So, who am I to question that now?
Which, once again, I think like that's amazing just to hear that and how strong that is for you and how that has helped you to not be overly stressed, to trust, as they say, trust the process, right? And to keep
Yeah.
going. But I would also imagine that could be hard, especially in your industry where you've dealt with people of all different backgrounds, all different genres, right? How have you allowed that to center you in the midst of being around everything and everyone?
I lean on I am in the world, not of it.
Oh,
I lean on that in regards to my career as well. I don't expect for people to, you know, to kind of bend to my will, so to speak. I more or less approach it like Jesus, in the sense of like, I just want to be there. I want to be a positive influence. I want to be a light in the room, and I don't want you to be uncomfortable with me, but I'm definitely not going to change who I am for for you. So there has been times in my career where people are like, I don't really know about this guy. I don't drink, I don't do any drugs. And that didn't really have anything to do with my spirituality, as much as just like observing the fact that a
mhm.
lot of my heroes in my own
Yeah,
family, have abuse problems with, substances. And I could tell that, Dr. Jekyll turned to Mr. Hyde once
yeah,
this got involved. And I said, I just never wanted to be a part of that.
yeah.
But you'd be surprised that people, I've been in parties and stuff like that, and people don't trust me because I'm not
Wow.
drinking or I'm not getting high. And they're
Like,
like,
what's up
no,
with that
no.
dude?
Why? Yeah. Why? What's wrong with you? And I'm like, nothing wrong with me. You having fun? Enjoy your
Right,
life. I'm gonna
right,
make sure you
right.
get home safe. I'm gonna make sure nobody takes advantage of you. I'm gonna make sure, but this is who I am. And it takes people a while
Mm.
to kind of get, accustomed to it. But I rather, make you uncomfortable at first until you get to know who I am and know that there's no malicious intent and that this is just me being me. But
I think that's
I'm
another.
not going to change who I am.
I think that's another one of those like key things that you're putting out there, right? That that it's okay to trust who you are and how you think and how you see the world. And that, there are a lot of folks, especially when we talk about kind of like, securing the bag, being, getting to that
Oh yeah,
right, where people just adapt and change all the time for whatever they're surrounded by might be. But it sounds like for you, you've trusted who you are, you've trusted your preparation, you've trusted God, and that has allowed you to just keep going.
absolutely. And I also know, like, for me, it's not about a bag
Right.
per se. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain things that I'm built on. And one of them is my mission when I got into television, and obviously primarily music television, was I don't work for a network. I don't work for a television show. My contribution is for hip hop.
Yeah.
This is who I work for. This is who I am. This is why I'm here sitting at this table. And that kind of mission for me has allowed me not to try to just bend to whatever is going to secure the bag at the moment. And it's made it more about, well, what's my mission? And will this next step help me to continue my mission? I want hip hop to be represented in the light that it deserves. It saved my life. It has, made me the man that I am today, and be able to take care of my family and to live an amazing, ridiculous lifestyle that I get to live every day. And it's been nothing but a positive influence on me. And I've seen for so many years when I was, younger, that, it just getting it's getting destroyed in the media, and the people who are involved are always criminalized, and I just didn't like it. So my mission was, I want to paint this in the light that it deserves to be painted in. So everything that I look at when it comes to my career, I have to look through that lens. Is this going to further my mission?
Yeah.
Then yes. If it's going to further my pocket and not further my mission, I don't want to be a part of it, because my pocket's all right.
Right.
I'm here for a purpose.
No, I love it. There's two things I hear in that. One, right, being able to like understand your mission, right? Like, that if you can understand your mission and go after it, the bag will follow, right? And it's hard. That's a tough lesson, right? But then the other part I hear is like, look, Esteban is here to save hip hop, right? One production at a time. I love it.
That's it, man.
So we're getting to the end, and there's a couple questions I really like to ask people. First, I'm going to ask you a question, and then the other three are really about kind of the show. The first question that I want to know from you, though, is like, what are you working on now? Like, what are some things that you are excited about, or in the works, or in development right now?
So, two projects. One you were a part of, and that is the Symbol of Solidarity documentary that
Awesome.
I took on over during the pandemic, which is about an amazing artist that I grew up with, one of my childhood friends and closest friends. His name is Brian Bowens.
Awesome guy.
He's a painter. Yes, awesome, amazing family. So during the summer of protest, when tensions were ridiculously high in this country, but Brian, who lives in a predominantly white town of Jenkintown, him and his wife rather, she wanted to do something about it, and she wanted to hold an event in Jenkintown, and asked Brian to speak. And because Brian is a visual artist, he knows that the best way that he communicates is through his art. So he painted this amazing, beautiful piece. Awesome. And, the piece helped unite the community. It's a symbol now that's, spread not only in Jenkintown. Brandon Graham had the symbol of solidarity painted on his cleats, for the last Eagles game. It was in the bubble, the NBA bubble down in Orlando. It's taken on a life of its own. The symbol has become such an amazing visual for the unity that we all want to experience in this country. So the doc is based on that story. And I got to sit down with you, and that's where we first met, and I was completely floored by your the way you just put things together. And that's kind of where our journey started. So that project I'm excited about. We just submitted to Sundance last week, and so we're going to hit the festivals hard in 2022. And so that's one project that I'm super excited about, and that's my directorial debut as a filmmaker.
Nice.
And it's my first non-music project as well. So
I know you probably had some influence on the soundtrack, but I hear you.
Right. What's amazing on that note is my son he scored the whole film.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So and everyone walks away more than they talk about the cinematography, or they say, yo, the music was amazing. And that's what that's amazing.
Once again, that dad hat.
Yep. I'm like, look, you're in my house, you don't pay no rent, I'm gonna need you to score this film.
That's right.
And he killed it. He did an amazing job. So that project I'm super excited about. And then I've been blessed and tasked with bringing Yo MTV Raps back to the States.
Nice.
And listen, I helped launch it in Asia and in the UK.
Okay.
In past years. But now I get to bring it home, and I am ridiculously excited about it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's going to be a challenge in the greatest way possible, in that I have that juggernaut of a cultural icon show that I have to do justice. But I'm so excited to do it. It's not even funny, man.
Oh, both of those are awesome. I mean, the documentary, I was privileged to be a part of it. That's how we connected. That's how we here right now. And there's so much more for our journey. And, what Brian has done with his art, what that family has done in that community is amazing. And Yo MTV Raps, I mean, I can remember way back in the day, right? And so just to think about what that means to kind of come full circle and to introduce or reintroduce, right, to
Right.
this time period, this generation, that's just awesome. I mean, you're doing some really great, iconic things right now.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
and so just to wrap up, what I would love to find out from you is, what does mental wellness mean to you?
For me, it's everything. As a man thinketh, so is he. Your mind creates your reality. And that can be both a gift and a curse.
Hmm.
We experience, unfortunately, in this country, people who decide to believe whatever they want, and then it manifests into opposition and things of that nature. That's how important mental wellness is. If you're not in the right mind state, then everything that will flow to you will be poison for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I definitely try to be a good steward over my mind. And when bad thoughts come out, I gotta de-weed them. I gotta pull
Yeah.
those weeds out and not let them take root. And that's hard when you have a lot going on, when you're in, I'm a New Yorker. So, well, I'm a New Yorker now, so there's the hustle and bustle of what's
Yeah.
going on, and events are going on, and projects are going on, and my wife is going on, my sons are going on. I'm a brother. I have so many different hats that I wear. If my mental space is not
Mm.
where it needs to be, then all of those relationships suffer.
Yeah. Oh.
And people are depending on me and in a very pivotal way. When I talk about my sons and my wife, they need me more than anyone else needs me, more than my job and my career. And the consequences of not being at my best are far more
Mm.
detrimental if I'm not where I need to be. So meditation is super important to me in its many forms. But a
Yeah.
lot of people think that you just got to be quiet and monitor your breath and whatever. But meditation can come in the form of coloring,
Yeah.
just that center focus,
Yeah.
repeating a phrase or a mantra over and over, things of that nature. uh Staring at like a body of water for a long period of time, just there's different ways of constantly being centered. But it's life or death for me, because I take my responsibilities as a husband, as a father, and as someone who is entrusted with hip hop. I take all of those things very seriously, and I don't want I can't afford a misstep
Wow.
for me.
I mean, talk about like just nuggets. I love it. And I really love like how you just talk about the importance of like how we got to take care of ourselves, and how that mental, like just taking care of our mental wellness, and how there are multiple ways to do it. My last question for you: what would you give as mental, when we think about mental wellness, right, as we've been talking so far, what mental wellness advice would you give to your younger self? And that could be like yesterday or way back. What would you say?
I would definitely tell my younger self to lean into being a yogi more.
Hmm.
I it was it was something that I've been doing all my life. So at times when things kind of started to get a little hot, I kind of got away from it, and then I started to get back deep in it. And that period of my life where I needed it the most, it escaped me, and it
Hmm.
just kind of got caught up in the hustle. Very in my mid 20s, early 20s, a lot of things are going on, for me in my career at that time. I would just say stay centered, stay present, stay focused, and you got it. I mean, God is good, and I didn't go off the deep end or anything like that. And
Right,
and
right.
the things that I experienced during that time weren't even anything crazy. But I just know that had I stuck to my regimen of being centered, being focused, and being present in the moment, that I would have appreciated it a lot more, and I also would have been more of a blessing during that time.
That's awesome. And I think about, like, on some level, right? Like, it's also saying if we had just listened to our mamas earlier, we would have been all right, right? How many times we try to push away from what they say to us and try to instruct us, but there's wisdom there, and so that's awesome. Esteban, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being on. This has been Leapcast, where we explore unexamined human moments with high achievers. I'm Dr. George James, and we've had the amazing, the awesome, the audio visionary Esteban Serrano on, just sharing about his life, his moments, and this has just been amazing. Esteban, thank you.
Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Wow, what an incredible ride we just went on with another great member of the Leapcast community. I appreciate you listening and hope you got some tangible value from the episode. Please let us know what you think by leaving a comment, rating, and review. As always, please don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. This is Dr. George James, and I'll see you next time.